at least whatever. Do more if you want.
You want me to switch over there? Or you can put that-
You good, boys? Yep. All right, thank you.
All right, I think we're ready.
Okay, we are back. So we did not meet in this format last week due to parent conferences, but boys, are we going? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, yeah, we didn't meet last week as a because of parent conferences, but we were able to get a couple of us together on short notice with a couple of the members of the district's team, and on Friday we spent, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours or something talking about articles and made some headway. We have 4 articles here to sign. We've got 2 more that have been sort of dealt with, and I'll explain that in a minute. And we have other articles that were I think close on, maybe have a little better understanding of each other's positions, and good progress was made on Friday. So we appreciate the district spending the time, and it was a productive session. So there was an agreement that we came to on Friday morning, I guess, to go back to book on 3 articles from each side, and in doing that, the articles that we've sort of taken off the docket here are Article 330 personal leave, Article 360 unpaid leave, Article 444 unit file, Article 210 life insurance, Article 429 elementary master schedule, and Article 156 virtual school and virtual online instruction. So those have been signed by the district now, and we'll sign those in a bit. But so the first 4 articles, the 330, 360, 444, and 210, will go back to book. So the current contract language will remain. And 429 was a new article proposed by AEA, and 156 was a new article proposed by AEA. So those will not enter into the contract. But I should mention that, like with Article 156, the virtual school and virtual online instruction, we still recognize that there's work to be done in that area, and we will pursue through other channels, trying to help out and make sure that virtual school, particularly at the elementary level, kind of gets a little bit of attention. So anyway, we appreciate the district's efforts on Friday of last week, and we're looking forward to a productive session this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate that, and agree with the sentiment that it was a useful exercise last Friday, and that there was considerable progress made. So, return the sentiment about it being appreciated from the district's perspective. Thank you for that. It also provided an opportunity for discussion about the remaining articles in terms of a way forward in the negotiation. I think there's mutual agreement that it's in the best interest that we continue to make good progress in the negotiation. This is our 32nd meeting of this negotiation, so we've been at it a while, and want to acknowledge everyone's efforts on both sides of the table, so to speak. In that spirit, we and apologize for coming in a few minutes late today. We had an opportunity to meet earlier today to put together a package proposal, supposal, which captures 10 articles of the, I believe, 20 that remain. These are the articles that I would put in the work rules category, and are all in the 400 series of the contract. What I would propose, Brian, is to pass that supposal around, and then I did have a few comments just to orient the teams to the effort and in general terms, and then happy to walk through each of the articles and point out where there were concessions, attempts to make concessions, and so forth.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that.
Okay. Did you guys end up with the right pages?
We have a bundle of what are probably the right pages, but
We're collating.
Are they in
we like to
sequence?
say that they are not in sequence at this point, but they are being worked on. In fact, yes. Unless you put them in the
Well, in an effort to try to keep them in sequence, and that's
Yeah,
way.
smart read.
Get some extra steps in.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
So the intent here, and I think everyone on, hopefully on at least AEA's side has the right articles. The intent is a supposal that captures, as I said, all the 400s that remain. So that's 402, 403, 417, 419, 423, 428, 431, 452, 464, and 470. Just wanted to kind of walk through in general terms what the effort was here, and then we can go through. There are 10 articles. 4 of them remained on ASD's list of remaining articles. Those were 402, 419, 452, and 464. 3 remained on AEA's list. Those were 417, 423, and 470. And the remaining 3 were on both teams' list, and those were 403, 428, and 431. So thought that was a good sort of reflection of what we might be able to work around in terms of a package. Shared interest, clearly. Of the articles proposed here, 4 of them would go back to current book language. Those are 402, 423, 431, and 417.
I'm sorry, Matt. Again, please.
402,
Yep. Thank you.
423, 431, and 417. Also notably, 403 would return to book in most respects, with the exception of a couple minor changes to wording to reflect the appropriate title for IEP, which is Individualized Education Program. That's just to be consistent with the way that state and federal agencies refer to that document. And then there's another change in terms of the rate of pay there that I'll talk about, and a proposal to move one section into Article 452. But just wanted to make the point that overall that is also an article that is in all substantial respects returned to book in the proposal, or supposal rather. And I think those are the overarching comments I wanted to make before we walk through it, other than to say it's the district's intent here to signal its team's concerted effort to move the negotiation forward. There are efforts to concede language wherever possible, and to, in both regards, that being language that expressed an interest, and obviously an important interest remaining for the district insofar as we had held these articles to this point in the negotiation, but also to recognize discussions that we've had at the table to date, and all these articles, of course, have been before the groups, recognize those important AEA interests where we could. So that's the reason it's structured as a supposal, is an effort to arrive at a meeting of interest that's acceptable to both sides. So without further delay, 402 academic freedom, as I mentioned, is returned to book. The thing I would like to mention here from the district's perspective is the intent here is to while we had an interest that we've talked about a couple times with respect to concerns about having access to lesson plans, we've had robust discussion during this negotiation about I think what would be mutual agreement about administrators' discretion and authority to have access to lesson plans to view where the instructor is with respect to delivery of instruction. And I know that has been an issue, as we've discussed, but the expectation with this proposal is that would remain something that would not be interfered with, that being an administrator's discretion and authority to expect that lesson plans are available for review, particularly in a walkthrough or observation situation, so that there can be an understanding as to, sort of what is occurring with respect to what the administrator is observing or observing, I guess. The other point I would make is in conceding on the, I would say, very important interest from early on in the ASD team's caucus discussions around this article, the language that was proposed by ASD about being able to require lesson plans. The district is moving forward with this proposal as book, with the understanding that the reference in book language to lesson plans being required for those employees where the administrator has a specific previously documented performance concern is not limited to circumstances where the employee, the member is on a plan of growth or plan of improvement. The language is broader, and we believe intentionally so, and we believe we've heard discussion in the negotiation that the documented performance concern may live in some other way outside of a plan of growth or improvement, and so long as it's been noticed to the member that there is a performance concern, then this provision would allow the administrator to require the member to provide the lesson plan. So that's by way of understanding what I believe to be a mutual expression of intent and is behind the agreement here to return to book language. Any questions about 402?
I think we're good on that one. Thank you.
Okay. I mentioned 403 is, this of course is one, an article that there was strong expression of intent for, in the district's case, significant reduction in language. I won't bore anyone any further with my already lengthy explanation about why we believe that would be appropriate, but nevertheless, we did have that interest. We're surrendering that interest here. The article continues to reference what we believe are the already captured in state and federal law and elsewhere legal requirements with respect to delivery of instruction for students with special needs. So where there is now or in the future some conflict with either the language as written or as implemented with a legal requirement, the district's expectation will be that the association would recognize the application of Article 620 conformity to law, which would, of course, dictate that the district would not be obliged, nor would it be appropriate for the district to adhere to an unlawful procedure. So that's the understanding underlying the agreement to return to book. We understand that returning to book would likewise require, if the association was interested in that approach, concession of a significant amount of newly proposed language in its proposals as amended. But we believe this is it is an effort to compromise in a mutual attempt to settle this article somewhere where we can both live with it. It's, of course, been book language for at least 3 years and for longer than that, as far as I can tell. So that's the general approach. The only changes, really, as I referenced, are where it, in book language, currently refers to individual education plan. There's an adjustment there to align with the legal legally recognized name for that document. And then, that's two changes. The other that I would point out is in paragraph E, there's a reference to monetary compensation that shall be paid to members. The district has proposed an increase there from $30 to $40, so a 33% increase in the hourly rate paid in that paragraph. And again, that appears in paragraph E. E5, carrying on to the following page. Are we tracking that change? Okay. And then finally, in paragraph J, you'll see later on in the proposal or the package proposal that the release time section currently found in 403J has been moved in the district's proposal to 452. That's, as was the effort last we met, trying to identify areas, if anywhere, this language could be found elsewhere and fit and have the same impact with respect to providing this this release time to the member, and so that's where it's relocated. So just wanted to point out it's not struck from the supposal, it's just relocated. That's the only other change to 403.
Excuse me, Matt, sorry. That's
Yeah.
word for word?
It's word for word.
Okay.
The only, I think where it says 2 days, I think as it's rewritten, it says 2, and then it has the number 2 in parentheses,
Okay.
but otherwise it's word for
Okay,
word.
thank you.
Or that's the intent. Other questions?
We know the district's moving to MTSS, and I'm wondering what ASD's intent might be, or interest in exploring ways for Tier 3 and Tier 2 educators to also be provided release time for the preparation of child fine paperwork. Since in Article 403, the reference to child fine paperwork is mentioned, but many Tier 3, Tier 2 educators do spend quite a bit of time. I myself have spent half a day just doing 2 child fine paperworks, and not afforded the same rights or privileges since I'm not a special ed certified educator. I'd be interested in hearing the district's interest in entertaining that idea.
Well, I think the district has demonstrated an interest in reviewing and having discussion around language proposed in various articles. So whether it would fit here or somewhere else, we'd be happy to consider it. I haven't developed a proposal around it. So I would propose now that if the association would like to bring something forward, we would look at that. Thank you for the question. 417, this is one of the ones that's most, I shouldn't have said a book because it's not an entirely book, because there's the 2 subheadings that are struck in acknowledgement that this was one that we broke into 2 articles. The association had proposed a new Article 418, which has been TA'd. So this 417 is back to book on the portion that remains as 417. So we had some language in there that we explored around some more discretion around the days currently identified as days for the purpose of assessment, planning, and evaluation. Heard a lot of concern around that. We also proposed some language around definition of grading days, and really didn't get to a place I didn't feel that that I felt a lot of interest in, or anyway, we're at this point, in the interest of moving forward in the negotiation, willing to return to book on that language. I don't have in front of me, but I could have in front of me what I think there was the main proposed language in at least the initial proposal from the association had further definition around the day known as Gap Day. The district's signaling here that its comfort level is with the existing book language on that. Any questions?
I believe we're good on 417. Thank you.
Thank you. 419, this one we've worked on a couple different times. I think we were getting pretty close. I refer to my notes, the team did as well. There may be some, the district expects there may be some interest in clarifying certain things with language proposals here, but really this mirrors fairly closely with a couple minor changes what has been exchanged to date. I think the only change to this one was I think it was unjustified, and now it's justified. And then in the first paragraph, spelling out code of ethics and the teaching profession and student code of conduct handbooks. That's slightly different wording, but was captured in the in the most recent district proposal. So I would propose that if there is a need for further discussion about wording on this one, we can certainly have that discussion, but for now, maybe just questions.
Is the, in that top paragraph, in the top paragraph, Matt, where it references the code of ethics, and then it talks about the student handbook, is that the district's proposed language for both the code of ethics and the student handbook?
This language was pretty close to what we talked about on the 19th, or excuse me, the 14th.
I'm just trying to figure out why so it's the discipline procedure for students, but yet we're referencing the code of ethics for teachers. We certainly have no problem with teachers complying with the code of ethics, but I'm just not sure I'm tracking on the logic of inserting it in this particular article. The student handbook of conduct, that makes sense to me because we're talking about discipline for students.
I believe this was responsive to language in a association proposal. Where it referenced the student code of conduct. The district's expectation would be that in matters of discipline, that both the educator and the student are acting in accordance with the respective code, or I guess they're both codes, as applicable to the situation.
Okay, so you've added the reference to the code of ethics. We did in our proposal have the handbook. The
Correct, and
student conduct
that was in the
handbook.
last district proposal. The only change was, I think I capitalized a couple things that weren't capitalized. You can, well, I can refer you to that.
No, I've got it.
Okay.
Huh?
Is he talking about this, the October 14th?
Yeah, on October 14th, it said, and expect acceptable behavior in line with the code of ethics of the education profession and the student code of conduct handbook. So I think
You've
education was in the last one. Now it says
Isn't it
teaching profession,
ASD counted?
and the code of ethics is capitalized. So that's the difference from this proposal as compared to the 14th.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think that brings me to 423. This is one of the articles that the district has, in this proposal, indicated an interest in book language. We had some minor adjustments in our initial proposal to clarify that this truly is a educational policy management function. I know we had lots of discussion early on and continuing through the negotiation, various proposals. The district appreciates the movement in the proposals from the association, but this is viewed as within the exclusive domain of the superintendent and a non-negotiable subject. The other thing I would point out is the I understand the concern and understand that a lot of the discussion and questions from the association centered around short-term closures in lieu, where distance delivery would be the expectation in lieu of an emergency closure day. We've since experienced one of those days. While it wouldn't be within my authority or discretion to guarantee that the intent here is not to require distance delivery in 1 or 2 day emergency closure situations related to weather. I think that's the first instance to demonstrate that this article is likely not really about that type of closure. So I take responsibility for my part in bringing that conversation to a subject that's probably not, I don't want to say not relevant, because it's clearly relevant to the association. You've had many questions and discussion about it, but this is not intended, wasn't intended, and now reverts to book to supersede the longstanding practice around so-called snow days or ice days. Again, I'm not the superintendent, so I can't make a statement of as much of an issue as perhaps, we made of it. And again, I accept responsibility, my role in the responsibility for that. So again, and just more importantly, as I think, or most importantly from my perspective, as I've stated before, this doesn't signal disinterest in many of the things we've talked about in prior negotiation sessions, but is more of an indication that from the district's perspective, this is an article that really is within the superintendent's purview. Questions on that one?
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you. We've made a number of changes, and I'll try to capture them all to 428 from the district's prior positions. And I'll try to explain what we've changed and why. Starting with in paragraph A, the initial proposal from the district struck the example of elementary 8:50 a.m. closed paren. That is no longer struck, so that end of that paragraph would remain book language in the current structure here. I think the next striking of language is the same. The next change from the district's prior position would be in paragraph C. Wanted to recognize the association's decision not to pursue Article 429, which was a carve-out from Article 428 with respect to elementary master schedule development. Some conversation around some language that the district could insert here to acknowledge that members do have a role in the process. And so the effort here in the added language in the second to last sentence there in paragraph C, members will have an opportunity to provide input and suggestions regarding the elementary master schedule. And then book language, the principal has the ultimate responsibility for determining the elementary schedule. So that's the effort to acknowledge that there was an interest in some language there. Otherwise, the next big change is moving over to paragraph E on the next page. We had proposed language in the initial proposal that would strike the phrase beginning where it would have said, had our proposal been accepted, a full faculty meeting or professional development will not exceed the student day by more than 1.5 hours, striking the reference to scheduled no more often than twice per month. The approach here in the new article in the supposal would say a full faculty meeting or professional development will normally be scheduled no more often than 3 times per month and not exceed the student day by more than 1.5 hours. This is acknowledging continuing to acknowledge the AEA's expression of concern about too many meetings, but also trying to capture the district's interest in finding, some time to do some of the meeting requirements that have been described in the negotiation. So the proposal, in essence, is to move from the reference to no more often than twice per month to 3 times per month. So 1 more time per month. And then finally, in F, The initial proposal from the school district said members shall be expected to attend one open house per year unless excused by the principal based on exceptional circumstances. There was concern in the negotiation expressed that what is exceptional circumstance, who decides? I mean, who's it for the principal to decide? That I'm paraphrasing here, but those were some of the concerns. Acknowledging those concerns, we've proposed returning to book language there. Questions?
Nope.
All right, thanks. We're getting there. I know I'm talking a lot, but we're going through a lot of articles. 431, non-instructional duties. Cutting to the chase, it's return to book. The district had language in its initial proposal, actually a redaction of language, the last sentence in the article, in an effort to provide some equity from the district's perspective, and that language was non-instructional duties shall be performed only at the home school. That proposed redaction of language has been removed, so the impact here is book language. This is another article that the district views as within the realm of non-negotiable subjects, a management function, assignment of these duties. Obviously interested in whatever counters the association has in this regard, but feel pretty strongly about our position here and that it's a fair outcome to yield on some language in an area where we believe that we have the authority to make that adjustment. Questions? Okay, thank you. Instructional planning 452. We had reorganized some language in the initial around this one, but we're just really focused here in making it crystal clear that the concern is and will remain, we believe, fairly debilitating in terms of principals being able to accomplish their mission in schools and working with members. The reference to member-directed time and the way in which that's been interpreted, in particular, to as has been described, interfere with or have adverse consequences with regard to efforts to organize collaborative time around, team efforts for various purposes that we've talked at length about. I won't get into them here, but that continues to be I'd say, top priority in the negotiation of the work rules articles in this negotiation from the district's perspective. So it remains. The remainder of Article 452 as proposed is book language till you get to the very end, and this is where there's a new section E, which I believe, as I said earlier, captures verbatim, with the exception of the numeral 2, the language from 403. If it doesn't, then we can make that adjustment. The intent was to capture and just move that from book language in 403. Uh, 464 evaluation procedure. We would like to continue with the effort to, we believe, clarify the intent in section B1 that the observations of a non-tenure member need to be formal, and both of them. We had some confusion and discussion around the timing of those. There's no change to that. One has to be completed before the end of the semester. The other can occur later. So that's a continuing effort. That language remains the same. The next big thing I would signal is, skipping ahead, is paragraphs D, E. The district had an interest in devoting its, mutual limited resources in terms of instructional support efforts to the plan of improvement cohort. We heard loud and clear that the association was not interested in that and viewed the plan of growth component of the improvement program process as a valuable component, and have recognized here that effort. The only changes really are to refer to plan of growth versus professional support. We believe that more accurately captures how that document is commonly referenced now. So there's no intent to change the substantive design of the plan of growth model. It's just a relabeling in the contract. And then that change is reflected again on in paragraph G. The only other change there, well, there is no other change. The language that continues to be struck there is that we believe the reference to choosing to request an evaluation support coach through the AEA evaluation committee or its representative might have unintended consequences. I don't know how that. I guess the point is we don't want to limit how that support is requested. So it's not to try to cut the evaluation committee out of the process. It's just to reflect that members who want to request a coach can do so. So that wasn't a change from a prior iteration of our proposals to this one, but I just wanted to point that out. And I just have one more.
Question. Just a couple.
You're supposed to be happy.
Well, I'm getting there, Matt. I'm just trying to find my place right now.
Okay.
So, just one clarification, I guess, for me is going with the two formals, and it being very clear that that's a requirement that two formals for non-tenures be completed before February 15th. So, if that doesn't happen, what does that do? Does that invalidate the evaluation? Does that, the employee doesn't direct the observations, the principal does. And just as I read this, it makes it clear that two of them have to happen to get before your evaluation. So I'm just wanted to understand that better. And then my other question, I'm going to say I'm very happy to see that plan of growth is, that we're off of that. That does make me very happy. But the question also is regarding the request for a coach. So the evaluation support coach, that's through a specific program that we've developed. So I just want to make sure that that this language isn't in any way saying there could be some other method of obtaining an evaluation support coach other than those coaches that have gone through the training and are essentially kind of pre-qualified to do that coaching work through the, it's been through an addendum work through the, evaluation committee is what it has been under. So anyway, is there any, I wouldn't want to see that change so that there could be some other selection of a support coach other than the one that we've established.
No, I appreciate that. And no, that wasn't the intent at all. The intent, as I read the language as it's currently written, if a member requested an evaluation support coach by emailing you or emailing Corey or emailing somebody else, it would not comply with the contract. That communication would not comply with the contract, and that assignment could not be made because it currently has to be through the AEA evaluation committee, which is the committee, meaning the committee is convened and there's a request or its representative. So I don't know if there's been designation or delegation of authority to a representative of the committee to make those assignments.
Right, so she gets an addenda.
And if that is, so we can, I don't have a
Okay,
dog in this fight, so to speak. I just wanted to make sure
all right.
a member who's trying to get a coach doesn't get caught up in a technicality because they didn't ask in the right way. So either way, but I appreciate the clarification because no, it was not the intent to do that, first thing, however you stated it. But as to the other point, really, and I think we talked about this a little bit, the concern here is, I think there was an effort to relieve some burden in terms of the nature of the observation when it comes to written versus, formal versus informal written. What unfortunately seems to have played out, though, is that we've had principals who have had performance concerns, have documented those concerns, have hit these target deadlines, so done one observation before semester and done the second observation before February 15th, so they've hit the timeline. But one is formal and one is informal, and this language has been construed that the principal who finds himself in that situation can now put a member about whom they have concerns on either a plan of growth or a plan of improvement. So this is to clarify that the association has taken the position, and the SEED document references that 2 formal observations are required before a member can be placed on a plan of growth or improvement. And to just capture it right here so that there's no confusion, the administrator's not confused. If they've got concerns early on, they know I've got to get 2 formal observations accomplished if I think there might be a chance that we'll need to move this member onto a plan. So that's the intent. I think it's been, I'm not saying I think it was intended, but it's been kind of a gotcha where we haven't been able to move forward and provide that support through a plan of growth or improvement process on what we believe to be a technicality. So we're trying to make it crystal clear if that's a concern, you need to have your ducks in a row. That's the intent. And the final one is 470, classroom coverage. Just want to point out here, we have come back with this, as you know, we've had lots of different proposals, some of them packaged. This one captures the rate of increase that was previously proposed by the district to move from $30 to $40 per hour of coverage. That's a 33% increase. So we've captured that. Obviously, understand that to be of great interest to the association. The other thing that, turning to the final page of the supposal package, that we wanted to acknowledge is that there was confusion from what I was hearing around the split class situation and what would happen. And I think we've mutually acknowledged that's not the best practice. It's not something, as Mr. Barker and others have spoken about, that is the preferred outcome in the event that coverage is required. But it's something that may happen from time to time when there are no other options. So acknowledging that, wanted to capture language that continues to provide for payment in the event of split coverage. The reason that the language in the middle of the paragraph, one member, full class, $30 of coverage is struck, is not because members who are covering a class won't be compensated, but because in the effort of reorganizing this article early on, both sides reorganized paragraph A, and it now covers more than just, paragraph A used to just cover high school and middle school, now it covers everyone, and it talks about what happens when a member covers a class. So we don't need that in paragraph B. What we do need is what happens with regard to payment when it's a split class with 2 members covering 3, et cetera. Those numbers are the same. That's book language, so The remainder after that middle of the paragraph strike through is from the book in terms of what hourly rates will be paid in those various splits.
Okay, well, thank you. You guys have been busy. That's a substantial chunk of work there. We will certainly give this a good look, and I can't imagine that we would be back to you anytime this evening, and not 100% on tomorrow, but let's shoot for a 5 o'clock start for tomorrow. We'll stick around here this evening and get as much done as we can, and leave ourselves some last minute editing and printing time tomorrow, and once folks get here and have a chance to look at excuse me, final versions, and yeah, we'll start tomorrow at 5.
Okay,
But
5 o'clock.
yeah, we appreciate the district's efforts, and man, I've got the signed articles for you, and need to talk to you for a minute out in the hall.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you.